Hi, my name is Tracy Tadero, and I'm so glad that you are here for the Be Courageous Online Summit. My intention for the summit is to provide courage and support for everybody who's going through challenging times right now, which is majority of the population. So I am so honored today to have our guest, Sorinne Ardeleanu, who is joining us today for our summit. And Sorinne is an author, a healer, a visionary, currently focused on working on improving values, media, healthcare, politics, and education so the masses can be empowered to live authentic, purposeful, healthy, peaceful, loving, and prosperous lives by correctly applying nature's laws. So I welcome you, Sorinne. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Tracy. It's an honor to meet with you and your viewers today.
Thank you. So we are obviously here to provide courage and support to our viewers. And I know something that is very dear to your heart is just getting into an alignment with your true authentic self and tapping into the courage and love. So you are perfect expert to be speaking to our audience and sharing some of the information. And so, maybe we could start out talking about where courage comes from.
Well, I kind of wrote about this today. It's funny that you asked this question. I wrote about tapping into an infinite well of courage within myself because I realize we all have that within us. It's just a matter of allowing yourself to tap into it. But it's a little bit deeper than that in the sense that I find that we are inspired by others who are courageous oftentimes first before we tap into our own well of courage. So that's part of the reason that I advocate people being courageous because in a way it's contagious to be courageous. When we see somebody standing up to do the right thing, then it inspires others to stand up and do the right thing. At a subconscious level, most of us are, for better or worse, following what others are doing. And so when we choose to lead by example and be courageous, we give others permission to do the same, and we bring them with us. So, courage, I think it has many dimensions to it, but I think that's a good starting place.
Exactly. That's so true. I mean, we radiate it, right? And everybody else picks up on it around us. So tell me about a time where you, in your past, I mean, you've worn so many hats, obviously, as I was reading here in your intro. And I guess it doesn't just pertain to one particular time, but where you had to step into your courage to do something that was so outside of the box for you that it was just not where you ever thought you would have to go.
Sure. I'm going to talk about this in as neutral a way as possible because I want to respect people with differing opinions. But for me, the most courageous thing I've done so far in my life is running for public office. And, it's not something that I ever wanted to do. I used to sell exotic cars and manage dealerships. I did executive coaching. I owned a nightclub, an art gallery. I've done a lot of things that were, considered fun, and here I felt called to get into public leadership about 20 years ago. And, I tried to ignore it. I tried to distract myself with worldly, possessions and experiences, and I actually started creating disease in my life. And about 10 years ago, I started to feel even more and more called to run, where I started feeling like I was already running, and people around me started telling me this, and I finally just started surrendering because I finally admitted to myself, maybe there's a reason I feel called to do this. Maybe I should stop fighting it. Maybe I should get over myself. Maybe I should get over my conditioning and my fears and my desires and look at what is it that I bring into the world and just see what happens if I develop it and share it, and just trust that inner feeling, that calling, and believe that I am, good enough for whatever I'm feeling called to pursue. And so it took me a lot of courage to get over myself, especially because, and this is probably a very different experience for different people. But for me, I come from a very difficult childhood where I ran away from home when I was 14, which also took a bit of courage. I was in a very abusive circumstance and I just didn't want to take it anymore. And so, I had a lot of things to overcome, especially imposter syndrome was something that I dealt with for a long time, where every day of my life I heard how ugly and stupid I was. And I don't consciously believe that. But now that I understand how programming works, I understand how this has affected me at a subconscious level, and, why I've spent like the past 10 years of my life actually investing in healing myself and knowing myself and understanding life. I mean, all of these things take courage, I believe, because they go against what we're taught we're supposed to do. And I'm kind of putting pieces together but I hope that you can connect them to understand that it's not, one courageous act that I'm doing. It's a whole bunch of courageous acts that build and build and build on top of themselves, kind of like a foundation. As I'm speaking to you now, I'm realizing it, because that's one thing I talk a lot about to people is like, there are no shortcuts in life. You have to build a foundation, and courage becomes a part of this foundation if you really want to thrive and be fulfilled, at least from my perspective and my experience. I had a very severe post-traumatic stress disorder in my late 20s. I was in and out of ER sometimes as like much as twice a year. For me, that's a lot, in my 20s. I've overcome all that, but it was because I was resisting my path. I was trying to conform. I was being very cowardly. I was doing, what society told me I should be doing. And on paper, it looked like I had it all, but I was miserable. I was dying inside. And it was when I finally, walked away from that life and started to really invest in myself and challenging everything, that I really started to feel like I was coming into being my most authentic self and feeling truly free in a way that nobody else can give you that freedom. I hope this makes sense. I kind of shared a lot there, but I think it's important to look at the bigger picture of where my courage comes from and how this can apply to others in their lives.
Well, and I think it's exactly what people need to hear, because I think there are so many people who are not living an authentic life, and here they are behind closed doors, and they're having to reevaluate and reassess their lives. And I hear people going like, "Oh my gosh, I love to bake," but that's not the career they're into. And I love to paint and I love to write, but that's not the job they're doing. And it's like people are afraid to follow their hearts and follow what they want to do because of a lot of it's programming, right? Like you have to have a professional career, you have to make X amount of dollars. And so just
Or
as you
you
were
need a
talking,
piece of paper.
right, exactly.
You're not good enough if you don't have all this. It's like, but if you feel called to do something, there's a reason that you feel it and I don't. So, it's like, at least try is kind of my perspective on those things.
Yeah, I mean, and I know people who were, multimillionaires that were just like, I'm leaving corporate America and I'm going in to do something that's more my passion, painting or collecting cars or whatever it is that's more meaningful to them. And I think this is a great opportunity for people in this lockdown, right, to sit there and evaluate and really find out what part of their authenticity they can get back in touch with, right? Whether it's a relationship that they're having to face this person 24 hours a day now, that it was status quo because they were gone all day during the workday, right? And now they're having to face that, or having to go to work, or they're enjoying being with their kids more, which is something that they never thought they would be able to do because they were a career person. And so like you were saying, it's that courage that takes people to the next level of getting in touch with their authenticity and what makes them happy.
It also requires a leap of faith, but nothing changes unless you do. And for me, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about, how can I help people to get from where they are today to where they want to be tomorrow, and that leap of faith requires reprioritizing, putting, and that takes courage, because you're putting what's important to you first. You're making time for it, right? Because nothing will change unless you do change something.
Right.
And so, but it takes courage to believe in yourself and to believe that you're going to be okay. And to the practical side is the reprioritization, because for me, whenever I decided to leave the world of working for other people because I didn't like working for people who lacked integrity, I realized, what do I need to be fulfilled and to be content in life? It's just food, shelter, and love. It's very basic.
Right.
And I could live anywhere and be happy, realistically, for the most part, but I haven't had to move. I haven't had to compromise much, because even though I haven't brought in as much income, I've brought in a lot more other things. For I bartered with people. I got free healthcare. My dogs got free healthcare. There are so many ways that we can be creative to get our needs met. For people who are worried about money, you have to realize that we don't necessarily need money to survive or thrive either. That's just a concept. And another thing that you got me thinking about is the current model, right? It's gotten us where we are today, and we're starting to wake up right now while we have this time at home, and we're questioning things. um, to question the model. If it got us to where we are today, how can it get us anywhere else, anywhere better? So I feel like this is a really good time for people to not only think about what's going on in the world and be honest with themselves, but to have the courage to be open about their thoughts and questions, because that's the only way we advance. And again, I'm a little bit wired politically, but I also think that we all need to think about these things, because we're all affected regardless of what our titles are in the world.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just, you're going back to the thing talking about money, and I'm watching people, I'm on a neighborhood social media app, and I'm watching bartering going on. It's pretty amazing. Like, oh, I'll trade toilet paper if somebody's got a bag of flour, or, and it's like, wow, we have gone back, right, to getting, to finding a way to get our needs met. And it's pretty amazing. And it's just changing a lot. So you talk a lot about being immovable, and I kind of think it plays a little bit on this, but if you want to share on that a little bit more.
Sure. So part of my journey has been learning to be immovable. And what I mean by that is learning how to reason correctly and fully, because unfortunately, I realize most of us are never taught how to do that. I didn't start learning how to reason correctly till I was in my 30s. And so I don't think there's any reason to be embarrassed. But when you learn to reason correctly, you no longer make decisions out of your emotions, because a lot of times emotions are just conditioned responses, and they can interfere, with our reasoning abilities. And essentially, there's a physiological change in our body, because when we're emotional, we create certain chemicals in our brains. And so, like, when you're angry or you're worried, you're going to create all these toxic chemicals that get into your body, and they do affect your cognitive abilities, as well as create disease, headache, a lot of times, even with my PTSD, it was all stress related. So I was making these toxic chemicals because I was stuck in a loop. And so, the reason that I've been interested in all these things, if it's not obvious, is because I really wanted to heal myself, and I wanted to be able to help others. And so learning how to be grounded, how not to be moved by whatever is going on out there, and just to keep, focused on being logical, applying natural laws. That's something else I've also been studying for about the past 10 years. But you'll make better decisions when you come from that place. And I think about leaders, because we're all leaders to somebody. You're a role model, okay? And so you don't have to be voted in or whatever to be a leader. But leaders, I believe as leaders, all of us need to start taking a little bit more responsibility of the impressions that we leave in the world, because we are, leading by example, even when we don't want to. And so for me, I realized that I needed to be as grounded as possible if I wanted to inspire others to be as interested in having the state of being. You don't sell people by forcing something by their throat, down their throat. You sell them by showing them what they're missing out on. And so for me, I realized, like, I need to lead by example. I'm not perfect. Please don't think that I believe that or think that, but I am working on myself, and every day I get better and better. But I want people to realize that it is possible, and it's very powerful, because you can see through things that are happening a lot better in the world, especially with the media and sensationalism. For me right now, I'm actually very calm with everything that's going on in the world, because I understand what's driving the behavior, right? But the old me, my heart might be sinking right now, and I might not be able to sleep at night. Okay, so I've come a long way, and I'm sharing that because I want people to know it's possible, but you have to be willing to do the work. And I think that's very difficult for many people to accept, is that they have to be personally accountable and responsible. Nobody else can make you grounded. Nobody else can make you courageous. You have to be willing to play your part. I can teach you how to fish, but you have to be willing to learn.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's just everybody's got to be able to understand, it's not the circumstances on the outside. It's our reaction and our belief system that creates the turmoil, right? So they're not being toilet paper at the store. Is that really something that's going to cause something horrible to happen? No, it's the story we create, or there's not enough food. Well, yeah, there is. I mean, the shelves at the grocery store still have plenty. What's the story we're creating, right?
Or it's the story that we allow others to create for us.
Right.
And that's a big part of what I talk about with people, is learning to, again, out of respect, I'm saying this respectfully, but just honestly, that we need to learn to think for ourselves and not let others influence us with their ideas. And if we do allow them, to logically reason through those ideas to make sure they actually make sense, and we're not just accepting it because we trust this person. It's very dangerous. A lot of people today, what we're seeing happening, aren't. That's why I talk about reason. They're not reasoning for themselves. They're not thinking for themselves. And we have that power, and we all need to realize that we can choose differently. But we need to be the ones, choosing, actively involved in this life experience.
Yeah, and it's taking full responsibility for what's going on within. Um, so let's see here. Is there like a particular tool or concept that you use that you can share on, like, how you actually shift your mindset? Like when that fear creeps in or when that worry creeps in, take us through the process of what you might do, internally or verbally to get yourself back to a place of peace and tranquility.
Sure. I think I've kind of turned it into a game. So, like, because I don't let for example, like, I don't let anything anybody else does get to me, even if it's directed at me, right? Because I realize that the only reason people try to harm others is because they are in pain themselves. And so I really try to understand where they're coming from. And so if I choose to respond, which I don't usually do, I always try to come from a place of love, but also a place where they know I can see them, that I know why they're acting the way they are, but in a respectful way. And that's what I'm kind of joking about. Like, sometimes I turn it into a game sometimes to see if I can bring out what's really, triggering this person, to get them to respond in a positive manner, or to actually help them heal whatever they're working through. And because it's fun for me to help others, and so that's the challenge for me. It's like, oh, okay, how can I phrase this differently? Like, I love that you're about being courageous versus overcoming fear, right? You're focusing on what it is you're trying to achieve. That's courageous, right? And so it's really important to know what to focus on. It's just little things like that. Like I said, I've been at this for about a decade, so a lot of these things are just natural to me. um, I gratitude journal. Every sentence starts with "I am grateful for." Because I want to raise my vibration. I want to, be in control of how I feel and what I'm thinking about. I don't want to be influenced by everyone out there. I don't want to be subscribing to everybody else's ideas and theories. I want to be in control, and so I just keep myself in check, and automatically, because I know the cost of not doing it, I guess, at this point. But with practice, it gets easier. And it's just, awareness, I think, is one of the places that it starts. And consistency, that was a really big one for me in the beginning. I realized that that was the issue, because I had a very difficult time accepting people around me initially that were hypocrites, that taught one thing and lived another way, or said they were one way but weren't. But I realize it's consistency, that most people do not aspire to be consistent when they say that they subscribe to a certain way of life. And the thing is, like, whatever, and I bring up ways of life because we all subscribe to some theory, but most of us don't give it 100%. And what I've realized, when you actually give these theories 100%, many of them actually reap great results. And so that's why consistency is so important. um, I don't want to overwhelm people. I could go on and on.
No, I know. I hear you. That's like, I'm just like, oh, okay, let's start rolling. And, the opposite of love is fear. And it's like, we're all in fear, and how love can turn that around. And I know a lot of people aren't ready to hear that. That's not enough to get them out of where they're at, but it's definitely just,
Well, so actually, another thing I've been thinking about, why is it that I don't have fear? It's because I understand life. And why do I understand life? Because I've taken it upon myself to educate myself. So education is something that's really helped me. The more that I am exposed to ideas that are logical to me, that bring me peace, the more that I believe them and the more they become a part of me, so that I don't question them anymore. Because most of us, no, all of us are pretty much operating on theories. We don't know what happens after this lifetime, right? So, but some of us are operating on theories that make more sense than others. And so it's just important to realize that these theories are here for a reason, and to follow them through, I believe, is very beneficial for most people. Don't say you believe in something, but then at this time not, you know what I mean? It's just the consistency again is just very important, and that will help us to overcome fear, is to focus on the education more and more often.
right. That's true. And I know for me, I don't watch the news. For me, I don't want to be exposed to that. I hear about what's going on somewhere or other, but it's like, when you're constantly watching the news and being exposed to that fear, it just creates more fear. And I've given my kids the gift of not exposing them to that, because I grew up with the news and TV on all the time, and it was living in a constant state of fear. So stepping back into that place of love, I think it's so important right now for people to really practice love towards themselves and self-care, and make sure that they are being kind and gentle with themselves during this time. So with your whole stance on love is the answer, what are some things that you could share um, regarding self-love and self-care towards people right now as they're going through this crisis?
Sure. And I love talking about love so much. It's actually the first part of my platform, which is based on love, logic, and liberty for all. So I talk about love as much as I can, everywhere I can. I don't care if it's in political circles or spiritual circles, or, anything, science. I talk about love all the time. And what's really awesome about being alive today is that we actually do have science that backs up the power of love. The Heart Math Institute is a really wonderful resource that's been conducting studies on the power of love and measuring it. For anybody that's interested, in case you're thinking, oh, love is very new agey, everything is energy, and love has, the greatest amount of influence as far as energy goes. And as far as self-love goes, one of the things I've realized from my journey is that most of us don't know how to love ourselves. And so that's part of the reason we're not able to love others very well, because we don't put ourselves first. Most of us, or not most of us, I'm going to say some of us, because I don't know. I haven't done any kind of statistics, but I know there are people out there, and myself included in the past, that put others before themselves, that they feel fulfilled from helping others first and not themselves. And the problem with that is that we have to make sure that we're whole first. We can't give something to somebody else that we haven't mastered giving to ourselves. I mean, my journey has been about learning how to love myself. Courage is part of loving yourself. Authenticity is about loving yourself. Surrendering, to your most authentic self, that is a part of loving yourself. And it's about putting good food in your body. It's about moving your body enough, sleeping right, cleaning right. It's about filtering, what are you watching, what are you listening to, what are you reading, who are you engaging with, how do these things affect you? Do they make you feel good or bad? Being loving is about being intentional and conscious with the way that you treat yourself. And when you do that, you set a precedent for others. They see how you treat yourself, so they're inclined to treat you that way as well. And because you know what love actually feels like, you're better able to give it to others. And, one of the challenges that I think many people have around love, especially in family, and this was part of my journey as well, is that just because you're family or you have some kind of history with somebody doesn't mean that they own you, doesn't mean that you're binded to them. Love frees people. Love lets people do what is in their best interest, not my best interest. And that's the hard thing. Many people want, but they don't want to let people be free to be their most authentic selves. And with love, we must do that. And, I talked about, teaching somebody to fish. That's love. A lot of people confuse, giving fish to teaching fishing with love. And there's a difference, because we actually cause more harm in people's lives when we don't lead by example, when we don't give a helping hand and instead do for them what they're not willing to do for themselves. I'm about addressing causes, not effects. And love is the answer to everything, because if we actually mastered self-love and the golden rule, then even just the way we would do business would be different. We would create situations where everybody wins, not just chasing the bottom line. Because ultimately, when we do the right thing out of love, we do create these situations where everybody wins. And again, there's no shortcuts, but we create sustainability when we create these solid foundations.
Yeah, one of my favorite songs is "Where's the Love" by Black Eyed Peas, and it's like, when I listen to that, it's just literally like, where is the love? Like, look what we're doing to each other, look what we're doing to the world. And so, anyways, I know this is kind of like a little shift in a heavier, place than the rest of the interviews for the summit, but I felt so compelled to talk about this, and I know this is your heart too, and it's what we need to put out there. And so I'm so grateful that you were open to just letting this flow organically and see where it went, because somebody out there needs to hear this message, and a lot of people out there need to hear this message. And so I'm so grateful that we get to provide this for them. So just I guess I could roll into, so something that you're offering as your free gift today, Sorinne, is a beautiful gratitude poem that you wrote, which if the viewers click on the link below to sign up that they will be sent that. But can you share where that came from and what that means to you, please?
Sure. So I've been writing since I was 10. It's my natural outlet, it's my way of processing and sharing and inspiring. And I'm not one of those people that likes to create on demand. So this came from a very pure, inspirational place. I was feeling grateful in life, and I felt like I wanted to amplify that feeling of gratitude when I wrote this. And it's kind of it's kind of fun the way it's written. I play with certain words because I try to be fun. I try to have fun in life. And this is actually the second version of this poem. I had written one before, so I call this one Gratitude 2.0. And the reason that I made a new version is because, everything in life changes. And for the most part, us human beings, we are evolving in consciousness. And so the things that we believe are best for us yesterday aren't necessarily the things we believe for us today or tomorrow. And so this poem was more aligned with who I am today as I was updating it, because I read the original. I'm like, this isn't who I am anymore. This isn't bad, but I'm different, and I want to offer something different to help others that want to lift their vibration quickly, because again, everything we focus on, we amplify. Everything is energy. So I want to give people something positive that they can focus on anytime they want to feel good. Because when we are grateful for things in life, we attract more to be grateful for. We become more open to receiving them and aware that they're even out there. A lot of times when we're negative, we miss the beauty of life. We miss all these gifts that are waiting for us. And so I feel that it really helps to be, looking at life with gratitude. The first thing I write in my gratitude journal is, I am grateful to be alive. Because as long as I'm here, there's hope, there's potential. And, and it's true for all of us. And, I don't say it like I'm special, because I think we're all special, but I just want people to know that being alive is a gift, and that's reason enough to be grateful. But if you need more, I made a nice list for you.
Good. That'll be very useful for a lot of people, I think, just little reminders. So thank you for offering that up. And anybody who's interested in receiving that, you can find it on her website, which she created for this, which is, go ahead, I'll let you say what it is.
Oh yeah, so I made a special website just for this gift, and it is www.sorinne.love. So that's my name, SORINNE.LOVE.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sorinne. It's been just such an amazing 34, however long we've been on here. Thank you for sharing all that you have and just being so authentic and vulnerable, because I think that's what makes the connections for people, and being able to, you know, be vulnerable and authentic themselves. So I so appreciate your time, and I know on behalf of the viewers too, you made an impact on people who are watching this, and thank you. So we'll just, you know, keep encouraging everybody to be courageous, and I'm signing off with love and light. Thank you.
Thank you.